Today we're going to talk about disaster PR. So you've said the wrong thing and now you're in trouble and your social media is on fire and you don't know what to do. And what about just in general, even when you're not in trouble? And you get the trolls that come on social media and they troll your page. And do you delete? Do you block? What do you do? Those moments are so awful. And what about disaster PR? What happens when you're in a scandal? How do you manage that? Now, there's such a nuance and there's so many different ways to go, and it depends on the situation and all of that stuff. So it can be very complicated. And more than I'm going to be able to teach you in one, half hour, 1 hour class. So what I'm going to tell you is just some top level stuff to keep in mind, and then get yourself a PR person who can handle the everyday drudgery of these sort of decisions. But first of all, you should know prevention, of course, like in everything, is 90% of the cure. So try to prevent it. During an election cycle, anytime you're in the news for the wrong reason, you're costing your campaign $1 million a day, and you're delaying the campaign 3 days, usually. So there's a 3-day news cycle, and you can take comfort in that. Then even the biggest shitstorm is going to die down in a couple of days. The problem is that even after it's long forgotten, if it's bad enough, it's been Google archived, which means for the rest of your life, when people are Googling you, they're going to find out this thing. So it's going to haunt you forever, even if the initial blowback dies down soon enough. So it's really important that you take your PR and disaster PR specifically, with great priority. I have some clients that keep me on retainer so that, they every once in a while, if they're going to talk about a thing that could be contentious or anything, they will pass it by me first and say, hey, I was going to make this statement or make this speech or whatever. What do you think? And I'll go in quickly, give it a read, and sometimes just changing a word, or a comma will completely change how that message will be perceived. And in the moment that you're making the message, you're just thinking about what you think and what you feel in that moment, or the ideology that, you subscribe to and that your followers or your voters subscribe to. And often we don't have the distance required to be able to look at how other people and how the opposition will perceive a thing. So if you're not careful, although your base may be happy, if it is misperceived by your opposition and they make a big thing out of it, doesn't matter that your base likes it. Eventually that could even turn off your base when they hear all this negative chatter about this thing they initially supported, and then that'll make them insecure and think, oh, I don't know, maybe I was wrong. Maybe, I should be mad at this policy instead of support it. I never thought of it this way. So it's really important when you're crafting messaging that you're also looking at how the opposition will perceive a thing, how it could be twisted out of context so that you can, mitigate whatever damage could occur from whatever message you're being told. But sometimes you can't always get things right, right? And sometimes you're going to mess up and say the wrong thing. And how do you manage it when you do? Well, a lot of it depends on, what it is that you've done. So it used to be that PR people would say, well, just apologize. Even if you're not wrong, just apologize. But that's what led to cancel culture. So we took that to an extreme where then people are apologizing for stuff they shouldn't even have to apologize for. And that has had a detrimental effect on everything, right? So we don't want to keep perpetuating that. At the same time, you have to be sensitive because you don't want to be dismissive of criticism. Because remember, you have to govern for everybody, not just your base, right? So you have to make sure that your messaging is palatable to everybody. Most importantly, the people that don't support you, so you can reduce the amount of damage these people can do to you. And they're always looking for a way to do damage, okay? So understand that you've got to deal with these things as they occur and you have to nip them in the bud. Now, what happens on social media when you're getting social media backlash, okay? Well, if the money's there, you hire a social media manager that is politically savvy. You can't just hire, like I said, your cousin because she's good at TikTok, right? You need to know someone who understands the nuance of political conversation. And if you have the money, you can hire someone to sit there and monitor your social media pages so that comments that are not helpful are deleted, people that are just trolled are blocked, but the comments that are helpful are kept, and maybe if there's some reframing that needs to be done, the comment section is the place to do that. Now, there are many people in the political strategy world that loathe social media because of the energy that's required to engage it and to monitor it. And that requires resources, paid resources, to get it done right. Or they would rather put those resources on a media ad buy, let's say, and not so much on social media. But if you look at politicians like Obama and Trump, they won their elections on social media. Social media lost the election for Hillary Clinton. So be very careful that you don't shoot yourself in the foot like she did. She never took social media seriously. Her opposition did. Trump did. He put a lot of resources in social media. I believe he had $1 million a day budget that he spent on social media that she didn't. And he used social media to rally the troops against her. And because she wasn't on it and wasn't utilizing it, she wasn't defending herself on there. So the lock her up and the Hillary crowd dominated social media, so they turned people off of her. So even though people that wouldn't vote for Trump also wouldn't vote for Hillary, so they just didn't turn out. And he won. So ignore social media at your peril. You definitely want to use social media because especially once you get elected, your constituents don't see what you do every day if you do anything at all. So if you don't share that stuff with them, they assume you're not doing anything because there are other politicians that share their day. So you're being compared against them. Well, this MP is always on social media. He must be very busy. This other guy, I'll give you a perfect example. There's an MP in Niagara, Vance Badaway. And this guy among politicos is a running joke because he attends every retirement party, every person's anniversary. Like, this is the photo op king, okay? So this guy spends all of his time attending every single bocce club tournament, whatever, that he can go to get his picture taken at. The problem is, then when's he doing the job of an MP, though? Like, being an MP, aren't you drafting legislation somewhere? Aren't you in Ottawa, like, doing things for the constituency, How are you managing to do your job if all you're doing is going to retirement parties all day? But when people look at him, when it comes to election time, they're like, well, Vance Badaway is everywhere. I'm like, yeah, everywhere but his desk doing his job. You know what I mean? But the public sees, well, he's everywhere. He's very engaged. He attends all of our things, and it actually scores him points next to other politicians, for example, that are maybe too busy actually doing the job than to fart around at parties and photo ops. But he's the guy that looks busy when the guy next to him is actually doing the work. But because he doesn't share that on social media, people don't realize he's doing it. So unless the world sees it, it doesn't count. So it's worth it to put money towards professional social media management. Now, how do you manage trolls on social media? Because on the one hand, you have to govern for everybody, which means you need to be able to demonstrate that you, A, have a tolerance for diverse opinions that are different than yours, and that you respect the concerns of people that are not your supporters, and that you respect their right to share their opinion that differs from yours. That's very important for you to demonstrate that kind of graciousness. Having said that, just because you invite someone into your house doesn't mean they're allowed to shit on your living room floor, is it? And your social media page is kind of like that. So on the one hand, yes, you want to be able to, be gracious to diverse opinions. On the other hand, you don't want to allow your social media page to be the place where you allow people to beat you up. So a lot of people will say, well, I ignore all comments. and I let any comment stand. Well, that's not helpful either. So you've got to find that balance. There's a local elected official also in Niagara. His name is Chris Biddle. Can't stand that guy. Yes, Chris Biddle, I just said that on a class. I can't stand you. And one of the things I can't stand about him is that every time somebody questions him innocently, like if it's a sincere, hey, you said that you're in support of this thing, this bill, but I'm concerned that this might be happening. Now, you're not trolling him. You're giving him asking him a concerned question. As soon as you do that, he blocks you. He has become famous for blocking anybody who disagrees with him. This guy's the biggest snowflake you ever met in your life. So he blocks everybody and everything that isn't throwing accolades at him. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. So what you do is you wait and you do some homework. So one person makes a random comment that's kind of flippant, whatever, you let it go. If you find the same account is trolling your page, that's when you do some homework. You check them out. If it's a fake profile, block. One of the first things you should do is look them up on LinkedIn, because half the time the trolls on your page are actually party staffers from the opposing party. So if you see that they all work in Ottawa, or they're obviously a staffer that works for the opposing campaign or whatever, you block them. Because your job is not to listen to the opinions of trolls, especially paid trolls. And your tolerance doesn't have to extend to people that are using your social media page to undermine you professionally. No. But you are obliged to listen to the criticisms of regular, everyday voters. And you can't call them a troll. So if you are a liberal and you've got the same conservative person who's not a staffer, he's just a resident in your riding, and he has constant issues because he's a conservative and you're a liberal, and all he ever does is shit on liberal stuff, you kind of have to take it. And if they are bringing their opposition spin to your page, so maybe they misperceive a thing, right, because of the spin that they've been told from the party they support, the comment section is a really good way or a tool to reframe that thinking. So if there's a flawed opinion that you know is shared by many people and somebody shares it on your social media page, that's the perfect place to add commentary to prove that person wrong. Never to make them look silly or stupid, right? But to educate them, to say, we've heard this concern from more than one person. The reality is that is a flawed perspective. Or inaccuracy. There are inaccuracies in that perspective, and let me break it down for you, and here you go. Now, this does more than one thing for you. Not only maybe, hopefully, it changes the mind of the person who made the comment, unlikely, but for people reading the comment section who are hearing similar things out there, you're arming them with what to say. When they hear this at work or at their dining room table, you're giving them the tools or the verbiage, the spin to use whenever they're hearing that somewhere to your supporters. Now, you can use the moderation thing of no abusive comments or language, to your advantage. So you would put a disclaimer somewhere, this page is monitored and we only allow respectful commentary. We're allowing debates, but any kind of abusive language or name calling will be moderated. So then that can go in and give you carte blanche to delete any comments that are not helpful to you. And if there's a comment, let's say the party made a mistake. They put out a policy that you knew was wrong and you disagreed with it, and now they're paying the price for that error. And people are going on and making comments that you agree with, right? But it's not helping you any because there's no way to defend the stupid decision. Delete, 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 delete. Right? So don't leave stuff on your social media that helps the opposition, even if they're right or they have a right to do it. So be very selective of what you allow. But it's important that you demonstrate that you're there to govern for everybody and that you want to hear from people that disagree with you and you're willing to engage with them, not necessarily to convince them, because you're good for people keeping their ideology is intact. You're not saying, oh, if you don't believe in me, if you're not, don't do a Chris Biddle. If you're not on my side, you're against me, No, we're all on the same side. We're on Canada's side. And diversity of thought and opinion is a good thing. I had a candidate whose daughter actively worked against him to undermine him. She was so mad at the party that he chose, she went to work for the opposition and was very vocal, talking a lot of crap about her dad. And my advice was, you're going to celebrate her. When people say to you, your daughter, hates who you're running with or whatever, your attitude is going to be, I am proud that I raised a daughter with her own, that is so confident in what she believes that she's willing to stand up against it, and you're going to celebrate her. There's a lot of times your family is going to go against you. That cousin you always hated is going to talk smack, or the cousin that always hated you, more importantly, they're going to spread rumors and say things. Your own kids may talk shit. My ex-husband, during our divorce, went on social media and told everybody I was a member of the Illuminati. You know what I mean? To try and get people afraid of me. All sorts of things will happen in your life. It doesn't mean that it has to be the end of it for you. And it doesn't mean that you have to rally against it. Like sometimes, like in my client's case with his daughter, she threw negativity and I had him throw only love and pride back. That can never be used against him. She looks like an asshole. You know what I mean? So these are the things that you can do to mitigate the negativity that is sometimes thrown at you. And you're going to get people even obsessed with you, that you can't make a move on social media without them commenting. And then you block them and they create another account and they start stalking you from a different IP, That will happen, unfortunately. And you just block, rinse and repeat. You don't need to tolerate abuse. You don't need to tolerate, vile attacks, and you're going to get them. But you do need to tolerate diversity of thought and opinion. You do need to tolerate people disagreeing with you. Because like I said, you're not just governing for the people that voted for you. You need to demonstrate that you will govern fairly for everybody and that you look at everybody fairly and you don't hold a grudge against constituents that don't share your ideology, right? Very, very important distinction to make. So social media matters. Use it. Invest in it. Hire professionals to help you manage it, that are very aware of political nuanced conversations and, so you can trust them that they're not going to say a thing. And sometimes somebody will say something really horrible on your social media and it serves you to leave it. Listen to me, this is really important and I utilize this a lot. Sometimes somebody will say something from the opposition that makes the opposition look bad. They don't realize it does, but it does. So maybe they'll spread a conspiracy theory or they'll say something really ignorant that a lot of fans of that opposition party, will often say and lob against people like you or against people in your party. It's in your best interest to leave it because sometimes you won't be able to answer it the way you'd like to because you've got to remain polite, right? So you got to watch what you say. So don't say anything. You will have other fans that will comment to their idiocy in a way that you can't. And because it's them saying it and not you, now you can let the gloves go off and let them handle those people. And many times your fans will defend you in a manner that is hilarious, where they will completely ridicule and make this person look like an idiot, which is exactly what you want, and you could never get away with doing that. So sometimes when somebody says something, don't necessarily run to delete. If it's not doing actual damage for you, and actually is ignorance on the part of the commentator and the ideology that commentator follows, it is beneficial for you to just wait a few minutes and let your fan club jump in and eat this guy alive. Because it will make other people think twice before getting stupid on your page, and it will help nullify whatever points this person was making. Because Nobody wants to look stupid. So people that agree with him, when he's made to look stupid by your people, other people then will think twice before uttering that statement when they're out and about in the world. So I'll give you an example. I work in the advanced materials world as a lobbyist. And on one of the social media pages I manage for a customer, a conspiracy theorist went on their page and made an accusation was completely unfounded. And it sounded like a crackpot conspiracy theorist. And my client said, what do we do? Should we make a statement saying we had nothing to do with this or whatever? I said, no, you're not going to say anything. Let's just wait to see what happens with the peanut gallery. Not a half hour went by, and some guy went on the comment and said, you're a complete nut job. Here's that they never did this. They have nothing to do with this. This is their specialty. You're crazy. Take your conspiracy shit elsewhere. Now, my brand could never respond like that. I could never respond like that. But this Joe person of the public could, right? So I let the comment stand and I let it stay. So we allowed the diversity of thought, but we also allowed the debate to happen. And the great thing is when you have people that start fighting on your page, that's amazing, amazing for the algorithm. You know, the way the algorithm works is it looks for things, it doesn't really monitor how the discussion is. It just knows whether something is interesting or not. And if people are commenting on it, even if they're commenting that they're pissed, it doesn't matter. If they're commenting on it, that means they're interested in it and they're engaged. And that's what the algorithm wants. So if all of a sudden you're getting debates on your page between other people, I'm not saying you debate, you don't have that kind of time. Do not get into pissing matches on your social media pages with people. Please don't, okay? But let other people do that. Because when there's arguments and debates happening on your social media pages, the algorithm takes that as, wow, this page is becoming interesting to people. Let's show it to more people in case they want to be interested. And a really quick, easy way to do that is when people leave any kind of commentary, for you to comment. Even just to say thank you for letting me know how you feel. Thank you, I will take that into advisement. Thank you for sharing that. Even just doing that, the algorithm is seeing, action. A comment plus another comment, even though it's a nothing comment, again, the algorithm only sees activity. And when it sees activity, it interprets that as interesting. And when something is interpreted as interesting, the algorithm will show it to way more people. So people fighting on your page is actually a great thing. Don't discourage it. Encourage debate. Friendly, respectful debate. When people start getting offside and start calling each other names and things like that, at that point you can shut it down. You can close commenting on a post. You could do all sorts of things. What you don't want to do is run to delete things too quickly. Sometimes you think something might become a problem, let's say you were at a function and you took a picture with an MP that at the time was getting good press. Now, a few months later, they're in the headlines for the wrong reason. And your instinct is to run and scrub your social media of any sign of them. Sometimes you don't have to be that paranoid. Some people are so afraid of social media, they don't engage it because they're just so afraid. And then you don't use it. So you'll have social media, you don't use it properly, and then you'll say it doesn't work, right? So social media only works when you use it, and only when you use it properly. And for that to happen, the best way is to hire a professional that is not just a social media expert, but is a political social media expert. That is a very nuanced specialty, and it will serve you very well to invest in it. Like I said, if you need proof of that, look at Trump, look at Obama, and look at Hillary Clinton. She didn't use it properly, didn't use it at all, barely, except to insult people, and she lost the election over it. So be mindful of that.